Om Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Sahasrashirusham Devam Vishwaksham Vishwashambhuvam Vishwam Narayanam Devamaksharam Paramam Padam Vishwatah Paraman Nityam Vishwam Narayanagum Harim Vishwamevedam Purushastad Vishwamupajivati Patim Vishwasyatmeshwaragum Shashvatagum Shivamachyutam Narayanam Mahagneyam Vishwatmanam Parayanam Narayana Paro Jyotiratma Narayana Paraha Narayana Param Brahma Tattvam Narayana Paraha Narayana Paro Dhyata Dhyanam Narayana Paraha Yacca Kinchit Jagat Sarvam Drishyate Shuryate Piva Antarbahishcha Tat Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Sthitaha Anantam Avyayam Kavigum Samudrentam Vishwashambhuvam Padmakosha Pratikashagum Hridayam Chapyadomukam Ado Nishtyavitasthyanте Nabhyamuparitishthati Jwalamala Kulam Bhati Vishwasyayatanam Mahata Santatagum Shilabistulam Bhatyakosha Sannibham Tasyam Deshu Shilagum Sukshmam Tasmin Sarvam Pratishtitam Tasya Madhye Mahanagnir Vishwachir Vishwato Mukha Sogra Bhugvibhajantistam Naharamajarav Kavihi Tiryagurtvamadasyai Rashmayastasya Santata Santapayati Samdehamapadatalamastaka Tasya Madhye Vannishika Aniordva Vyavastitaha Nilato Yadamadhyastha Dvidyulleke Vabhasvara Nivarashukavatanvi Pitabhasvatyanupama Tasya Shikaya Madhye Paramatma Vyavastitaha Sa Brahma Sa Shiva Sa Harisendra Sokshara Paramaswarat Ritagum Satyam Param Brahma Purusham Krishna Pingaram Udvayetam Virupaksham Vishwarupaya Vai Namo Namaha Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayat Om Shanti 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 Swastit Prajabhyo Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahimahisa Go Brahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Welcome to Mano Part 7. Shri Ashok Shirale comes from a family of devoted members to Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba since 1960. Upon completion of his graduation from Vivekananda College in Madras, an IBM certification program, Shri Shirale went on to Kuwait as a software professional for the British Bank of the Middle East for 24 years from 1971 to 1995. With blessings of Bhagawan, he took voluntary retirement at the age of 45 and returned to India in 1995. With Swami's blessings, he joined the Sathya General Hospital in April 1996 and was instructed by Bhagawan to join the Super Speciality Hospital project in December 1999. He and his wife, Smt Poornima Shirale, are working as honorary staff in Swami's hospitals and are now in their 25th year of active full-time service. Ashok sir is currently working as Senior Administrative Officer at the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Medical Sciences, Whitefield. Sai Ram.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Shri Sai Ram. My most humble pranams at the lotus feet of our divine Lord, Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dear friends and colleagues, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to our Lord, Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, for having reformed my life through his transformation process, and I also wish to thank the director of our hospital for giving me this opportunity to talk to all of you. I am indeed blessed to be in this Sai fold, and I wish to narrate my experiences. This year, 2020, is a significant year for me, as there are two milestones in my life. I turned 70 years of age in April this year, and the second milestone was that my wife and myself are in the 25th year of our active full-time service in Swami's hospitals. My first darshan of Swami was in the year 1965 in Madras when I was a teenager, when Swami used to visit the house of a devotee whose house was adjacent to the street where we lived. My parents were ardent devotees of Swami from 1960 and used to conduct bhajans regularly every Thursday at both our houses in Madras and in Kuwait. Incidentally, my father was one of the first Indians who went to the Middle East, as he went to Kuwait in 1938, and I was also born in Kuwait in 1950. In both our houses in Madras as well as in Kuwait, manifestations of the Lord would occur. Vibhuti would continuously form on some of the photos of Swami, and in another photo, Amrit would continuously flow. All these would be collected in a tray and then given out as prasadam to the people who used to come to our house regularly to see this phenomenon. Our house was like a temple where people could walk in at any time of the day to see these manifestations as well as pray at the altar. My parents were very generous and hospitable people, and it did not bother them that these people used to walk in and out at any time of the day. But I, as a teenager, was quite disturbed by these by this flow of people coming to our house as per their convenience, and it bothered me. I used to take out my anger on my mother by criticizing her about the formation of Vibhuti and saying that she was doing it herself. My mother would cry in sorrow and at the ignorance and the foolish behavior of her son, and said that one day Swami will answer you and change you. One day, I used to stay, ours was quite a big house, a 3-story house, and I used to stay on the second floor as I did not want to get bothered by all these things happening in our house on the ground floor. One day when I woke up in the morning, I felt something on my forehead, and I thought it must be a cockroach or a lizard or something like that. I raised my hand and pushed away whatever was on my forehead. To my surprise, it was a mound of vibhuti on my forehead, which I had now splattered all over my bed. And in that vibhuti, there was a beautiful pendant of Balakrishna engraved on a leaf. I was completely in shock, and I looked up at Swami's photo in my room and sincerely apologized to Swami for all my utterances to my mother and for causing her so much pain and hurt. When I went down, I apologized to my mother also and told her about this entire incident. She was so happy that Swami had taken it upon himself to transform her foolish and ignorant son. My mother put the pendant on a black thread, the sort of black thread that you get in the temples, and she tied it around my neck and said that this was Swami's prasadam for me and that it would protect me at all times. Well, life went on. A few months later, when I was about, all this happened when I was about 17 years old. A few months later, I had a very bad motorcycle accident in the night at 10 p.m., which was about 12 to 15 kilometers away from my house. My right leg was cut and it was bleeding profusely. I noticed in this incident that the black thread and the pendant were missing. In the accident, the black thread had got cut and the pendant was not to be found. I told my friends to look for this pendant as it meant a lot to me. They looked for a little while, could not find anything, and then said that they had to rush me to the hospital as my condition was quite bad. I was taken to the government hospital, and my right leg was badly damaged and I had multiple fractures, and it was put in a cast. My friends then took me home and carried me to the second floor where my bedroom was. And next morning, what do I find? The same pendant which went missing in the accident the previous night had reappeared on my chest. My mother then put this pendant on a gold chain and put it around my neck and asked me to wear it continuously and for my own protection. After graduation and undergoing an IBM certified programming course, I started my computing career as a junior programmer in the British Bank of the Middle East in Kuwait in 1971. My entire professional career of 24 years was with this bank. I ended my career as the project manager of looking after all the banking systems of this organization which we had developed in-house. I got married in 1976 to Poornima. In June of that year, in 1976, Swami had granted an interview to Poornima and her parents and had told them that they would get a marriage proposal from my parents and that they should accept it because this would bring prosperity to the couple. Poornima was apprehensive about getting married and going to an Arab country because she was very much involved in Sai activities in Madras as a Balika's guru and did not want to give it up. Swami asked her to tell her future husband's name, but she kept silent. Swami again asked her to say the name. This time, upon the prodding of her mother, she meekly uttered my name. As told by Swami, we got married in September 1976 and we have two children, a boy, Rishikesh, and a girl, Nandita. Rishikesh had his primary and secondary education in Swami schools at Uti and at Puttaparthi. Nandita had her primary and secondary education in Swami school at Parthi and then went on to do her BCom honors in the Anandpur campus. They are both married and well settled in life now. Nandita is settled in the US and has two boys, and Rishikesh is settled in Bangalore and he has a girl and a boy. So we have got four grandchildren. The next significant turning point in my life was in the year 1990. At that time, my children were studying in Swami school. Rishikesh was in the 8th standard and Nandita was in the 5th standard. Poornima used to shuttle between Kuwait and Bangalore throughout the year because she could visit the children at weekends in the school. I had come to India on my annual vacation and was scheduled to return back to Kuwait on the 9th of August in the year 1990. But as you all know, on the 2nd of August 1990, Kuwait was invaded by Iraq, which occupied the country. I was unable to return to Kuwait, and this entire incident of the invasion of Kuwait left me in shock because all my belongings and savings were in Kuwait, and we had very little in India. Lucky enough, I had bought an apartment a few years earlier and had a car, so we had a place to stay and we had a car to travel to Puttaparthi. One day, during darshan, my son told Swami about that we were very worried about the situation and that we were very worried about our future. Swami told Rishikesh, "Tell your father not to worry, I will take care." The next weekend when he visited our children at the school, Rishikesh told us, he said, "Papa, don't worry. I told Swami and Swami has told me to inform you not to worry and that he will take care." These words of Swami did not have much of an impact on me because first of all, I was still a half-baked devotee. And secondly, my mind was so muddled up with all these things happening in Kuwait that these words just went above my head. On the 25th February 1991, that is 7 months later, we heard the good news that the American troops had liberated Kuwait from the Iraqi occupation. My heart brightened a bit, but then the question still remained as to how I would return back to Kuwait. The retreating Iraqi forces had caused widespread destruction in the country of Kuwait and had set 700 oil wells on fire while retreating. The entire country was engulfed in thick smoke, and I believe 12 noon used to look like 12 midnight. And they had bombed the runway and the airport so that large planes could not, as a result, large planes could not land there. My management got in touch with me and asked me to get my project team together and to return and to get back to Kuwait to restart our banking systems. And they said that they would make all the flight arrangements from Bombay to Kuwait via Dubai. I did so and got in touch with my project team, and we all met in Bombay, and on the scheduled date we flew to Dubai by an Air India flight. Our management had arranged an 8-seater aircraft to take us from Dubai to Kuwait, as a smaller aircraft could land on the short strip of whatever was left of the runway. Our immediate priority in Kuwait was to disperse money to our banking customers because they needed money to buy essential things. So I got our people to write a small PC program, and we started dispersing money to the customers. In the meantime, we got the mainframe systems ready, and in a week's time we were up and normal and running again. After this, we said let us go and check our personal belongings. From amongst the 7 of us, some of them there was widespread looting in the country as people were making hay, as they say, they were making hay while the sun shines. Amongst my team members, either their houses had been looted or their cars had been stolen, and in 2 cases they had lost their house as well as their cars. When I went to my house, I saw that both our cars were parked in the compound, and was relieved that at least the cars were safe. I went to the main door of my house and I found that the doorknob was missing. I presumed that somebody had broken into my house and looted the house. I put the key in the keyhole, and the key turned and opened the lock. When I stepped into my house, to my utter amazement, I found that the house was intact, and as I had left it when I had come to India. The question of the missing doorknob puzzled me. Just then, on seeing that my house was occupied, my neighbor, a Kuwaiti gentleman, walked into my house, and just to make sure it was me and not somebody who had broken into the house. And he told me the most amazing story. Said that these Iraqi soldiers had come to my house and they were trying to open the door to occupy the house. Just then this neighbor of mine, this Kuwaiti gentleman, came there and he said, "What are you doing? There is an Indian family staying here and they have just gone to the neighboring city to visit their relatives and they will be coming back tomorrow." The Iraqi soldiers were suspicious of his explanation, but nevertheless took it for granted, and they said, "Okay, we will come back tomorrow and see what it is." And for some reason, the soldiers never returned, and that is why the doorknob was missing. After his explanation, these questions haunted me. Why did the Kuwaiti neighbor risk his life in protecting my property? What prompted him to give the reasons to the soldiers about us visiting our relatives in a neighboring city? Who else could it be other than our beloved Lord who managed this whole thing? At that moment, I remembered what Swami had told my son. Tell your father not to worry, I will take care. I telephoned Poornima, who was still in India, and told her about the safety of our belongings and how Swami had protected us. We had not even lost a pin. To save us and to protect us, Swami had also kept us out of Kuwait during this entire episode. At that moment, I made a pledge to Swami saying that when I felt that I was financially self-sufficient to look after the family, I would like to return to India and serve Swami. In the year 4 years later, in the year 1995, I thought that I had made enough money to support my family, and I put in my resignation papers. My management refused to accept it, and instead offered me a lucrative financial package, thinking that I was leaving because of the financial things. I persuaded them, saying that I was going back to India to pursue my personal interests. I did not want to tell them about Swami and about our life with Swami, because my management were all British and Kuwaiti people, and they would not understand the impact of this whole thing. Reluctantly, finally they accepted my resignation, and I returned back to India. I was 45 years old then. On returning to India, the first 6 months were spent in catering to the statutory requirements of changing my status from a non-resident to a resident, etc. During the summer of 1996, when Swami was in Vrindavan, I sat in the darshan line with a letter in my hand for Swami, stating that I had resigned my job and come back to India, and requesting Swami to give me some opportunity to serve him. The following, what happened then, was my personal experience of Swami's omniscience. Swami walked right up to me, took my letter, and without opening it, he beckoned Dr. Balasubramaniam, who was then the medical superintendent of the Sri Sathya Sai General Hospital. He beckoned Dr. Balasubramaniam and told him in Tamil to give me some responsible job in the hospital. And he turned to me and told me in Hindi, "Aaj se tum General Hospital jaake kaam karo." I always used to converse with Swami in Hindi, and my wife Poornima always used to converse with Swami in Tamil. He asked me to take Padnamaskar, and then both me and Poornima went to the General Hospital, and I worked there for 3.5 years, looking after the registration and the medical records department, and Poornima used to work in the gynecology department and assist Dr. Savitri with all the administrative paperwork. In 1999, a few days after the Bhumi Puja of the Super Speciality Hospital, Swami instructed me to join the project of the Super Speciality Hospital in December 1999. I was one of the 16 members of this project, and each one of us had our own area of responsibility. The responsibility given to me was the procurement and installation of medical equipment for this hospital. Along with a trust member, my main work was to negotiate the best deal for procurement of the medical equipment and to oversee its installation. I had never seen an MRI or a CT scan in my life, leave alone working on procuring and installing these machines. My knowledge on medical equipment was a big zero. This was the occasion for me to experience the truth that the Lord is the doer and we are His instruments who get the blessing and opportunity to do so. By Swami Sankalpa, the entire project was completed in 12 months' time and was scheduled to be inaugurated by the then Prime Minister of India, Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee. As the Prime Minister had a knee surgery and was indisposed at that time, Swami postponed the inauguration to 19th January 2001. Any other organization would have probably changed the chief guest and still gone ahead with the inauguration. But our dear Swami chose to postpone the inauguration until the chief guest was ready to convert into the inauguration. What a tremendous lesson for us to learn on keeping our word. The delay in the opening of the hospital turned out to be a boon for the people of Bangalore, as Swami was present in Vrindavan for nearly 3 months, from the end of November 2000 until mid-February 2001. We used to go for Swami's darshans daily in the morning and then return to the hospital to do our work. This period was very significant for me, as I was fortunate to have regular interactions with Swami during the darshan time. Swami would ask me about the progress of the medical installation of the medical equipment and also other aspects of the work going on in the project. When Swami's room in the hospital was ready, I thought I would inform Swami about it. When Swami came to me, I knelt on my knees and with folded hands informed Swami that the room was ready and requested Swami to come to the hospital to see the room. Swami held my folded hands with his left hand, and with his right hand he pointed to my chest and said, "Tumhara hriday mera kamra hai," meaning, your heart is my room. And he walked away. I was shell-shocked by this statement, and no words came out of my mouth after that. Swami eventually, the next day, came to the hospital to see the room. The lesson to be learned from this is that we should keep our heart pure and clean at all times to allow God to reside in it. The following incident gave me the opportunity to experience Swami's omnipotence. Swami asked me one day if the OTs were ready, if the operation theatres were ready, and I said, "Yes, Swami." Swami then told me that one of the operation theatres had a leak and asked me to tell the engineers to have them checked properly. After darshan, on returning to the hospital, I called the chief engineer of L&T who were doing the construction work of the hospital and told him what Swami had told me and requested him to check all the operation theatres. In the evening, he reported back to me saying that his engineers had checked all the operation theatres and everything was fine and there was no leak. Next day during darshan, Swami walked up to me and asked me if the leak had been fixed, and I told him that the engineers had checked everything and reported that that everything was fine. Swami then told me bookish knowledge, referring to the engineers, and also told me to tell them the procedure about how to go about finding this leak. Swami said, ask them to light an agarbatti and see from where the smoke goes, and they will find the leak. On returning to the hospital, I again called the chief engineer and told him what Swami had asked him to do, and they went about finding the leak, and lo behold, they found the leak and fixed it. The chief engineer was red-faced after that. Next day morning during darshan, again Swami walked up to me and I told Swami that the engineers had followed Swami's instructions and that they had found the leak in one of the operation theatres and fixed it. Swami gave me a pat on my back and said, "Acha lata," as though I was the one who did this entire thing. The 3 months leading up to the inauguration of the hospital were indeed the golden moments of my life where I interacted with the Lord, basking in His love and grace. After the project work and inauguration of the hospital, I was appointed as the administrative officer of the hospital. Swami honored all members of the project team in public in Sai Ramesh Hall and presented us with mementos, shawls, silver articles and clothing. Lessons that I've learned in my experience with Swami are, Swami always keeps his word. He will go to any length to protect his devotees. Swami is omniscient, he is omnipotent and is omnipresent. I have personal experience of all these three aspects of Swami. He is the doer but gives us, his instruments, the credit for doing the work. There is one more incident which I would like to talk about, and this dates back to 23rd September 2012, 17 months after Swami left his physical form. I and my family of four, myself, my son, my daughter-in-law and my daughter-in-law's father, and my granddaughter Anya, who was 11 months old then, we had gone to Puttaparthi for the Ganesh Chaturthi festival. My wife Poornima was not with us at that time because she was in the US visiting our daughter. After the Ganesh Chaturthi function, we drove back to Whitefield. It was around 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I was driving and the others were sleeping. I also dozed off while driving. What happened then is unbelievable. As narrated to us later by the villagers who were at the scene of the accident, I had hit a truck from behind at high speed. The car somersaulted 3 times and landed upside down on its roof in the ditch beside the highway. The impact was so severe that all of us in the car were unconscious. The villagers who came there pulled us out of the car by breaking the windows, and they called the police and an ambulance. When I regained consciousness, I heard my daughter-in-law screaming, "Where is my baby? Where is my baby?" And then we heard Anya's cries. She was crying, and we heard her cries. We found that an old man, she had taken her in his arms, and he was standing beneath a tree, and he had put his towel over the baby's head to protect her from the heat. And the car was damaged on all sides, and it was a total write-off. Anya was 11 months old and was sleeping on her mother's lap when the accident happened. The police inspector commented that it is a miracle that we were all alive, as in an accident of such magnitude, at least a few people would have died. We were taken in an ambulance to the government hospital at Chikbalapur, where the pieces of glass that were in the wounds were removed, and the stitches and the cuts were all stitched up. On getting the news, the director of our hospital, Dr. Swami, sent our hospital ambulance to Chikbalapur to bring us back to Whitefield. After the preliminary investigation, we were kept under observation that night. The greatest relief for me was that Anya was perfectly alright and seemed to be crying only because of the shock of the accident. She was perfectly alright, and all of us were also well, except for the bruises and cuts that we had received. During one of our personal interviews with Swami, he had told us that Swami loves those that serve and that he would always take care of us. I am overwhelmed by the love and care of Swami, and I am ever grateful for the second lease of life that He has given me and my family. I have no words to express our gratitude to Swami, and it is Poornima's and my resolve to redeem our lives by serving in our hospital till our very end. I thank you all for giving me a patient listening. Jai Sai Ram.
Selfishness is responsible.
నైతిక విలువ లేకపోవడం చేతనే దీనికి ఈ స్వార్థం పెరిగిపోతుండాలి.
Absence of morality is responsible for growth of
నైతికతగా ఏమిటి?
What do you mean by morality?
క్రమమైన నడత,
Good conduct.
ఇది మానవునికి అత్యవసరం.
This is essential for man.
విచక్షణ జ్ఞానంతో కూడినటువంటి ఒక నడవడికనే నైతికం.
Conduct based upon discrimination is morality.
కనుక మానవుడు ఒక నీతిని మనం పెంచుకోవాలి.
Man has to develop morality in him.
నత అనేటువంటి సంస్కృత పదం నుంచి నీతి అనేటువంటి పుట్టి.
The word morality, niti, has originated
నత
from
అనగా ఉన్నత స్థాయికి వెళ్ళిపోయేటువంటి యొక్క దివ్యమైనటువంటి యొక్క తత్వం అని దీనికి అర్థం.
The original word nata means that which takes man to an elevated place.
ఇది ఏ శాస్త్రం యొక్క అంతరార్థం.
This is the inner meaning of scripture.
మానవుడనగా పవిత్రుడు.
Man means a pure, sacred human being.
ఇంతే కాదు,
Not merely that,
దివ్యత్వంతో కూడినటువంటి వాడు.
he is also associated with divinity.
ఇలాంటి మానవత్వాన్ని ఈనాడు మనము కేవలం అశుద్ధంగా మార్చుకొని అశాంతికి గురి అయిపోతున్నాం.
We are converting such sacred divine human nature into animality and facing all problems for a lack of peace.
విశాలమైన భావాన్ని పెంచుకోండి.
We are students, develop broad-mindedness.
నేను మానవుడు, నేను పశువుని కాదు. ఐఎమ్ మ్యాన్ నాట్ అనిమల్, ఐఎమ్ మ్యాన్ నాట్ అనిమల్. ఈ రెండింటిని కూడా మనము క్షణక్షణం విచారించాలి.
Every moment you should think about this. I am man and I am not animal.
ఈ విధమైనటువంటి దీంతో నైతిక విలువలు పెంచుకోవాలి.
With this kind of thought, develop morality in you.
సమాజం యొక్క సుఖంలోనే నా సుఖం ఇమిడి ఉంటున్నాడు.
My joy and happiness is
నా ఉన్నటువంటి
influenced
సమస్త శక్తులు పడవు. నా కోసమే కాకుండా సమాజానికి కొరకు నేను అంకితం చేయాలి అనేటువంటి త్యాగబుద్ధి రావాలి.
We should develop the sense of sacrifice to use all our capacities and capabilities for the good of the society, for the service of the society.
ఓం శివాయ 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 శంభో శంకర ఓం శివాయ శంభో శంకర ఓం శివాయ శంభో శంకర ఓం శివాయ శంభో శంకర ఓం శివాయ ఓం శివాయ ఓం శివాయ ఓం శివాయ ఓం శివాయ శంభో శంకర 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 ఓం శివాయ 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 శంభో శంకర ఓం శివాయ శంభో శంకర ఓం శివాయ శంభో శంకర ఓం శివాయ ఓం శంకర ఓం శివాయ శంకర ఓం శివాయ